Sports trumps weather around here, particularly when we've got storms coming, but this is probably the biggest story we're talking about today. That is the Patriots quarterback, Tom Brady, and he is talking about what they're calling now Deflategate.
I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions that you want. I'll do my best to provide the answers that I have, if any, and we'll go from there.
When and how did you alter the balls? When and how did you supposedly alter the balls?
I didn't, have any, I didn't alter the ball in any way. I have a process that I go through before every game where I go in and I pick the balls that I want to, the footballs that I want to use for the game. Our equipment guys do a great job of breaking the balls in. They have the process that they go through. When I pick those footballs out, at that point, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them, putting in the air in them, taking the air out. To me, those balls are perfect, and that's what I expect when I show up on the field. So, that happened obviously on Sunday night. It was the same process that I always go through. I didn't think anything of it. Obviously I woke up Monday morning and answered a question on the radio about it. And that was the first I really heard of it.
Tom, you never thought those...
What do you think happened?
This has raised a lot of uncomfortable conversations for people around this country who view you, three-time Super Bowl champion, a two-time MVP, as their idol. The question they're asking themselves is, what's up with our hero? So can you answer right now, is Tom Brady a cheater?
I don't believe so. I feel like I've always played within the rules. I would never do anything to break the rules. I believe in fair play, and I respect the league and everything that they're doing to try to create a very competitive playing field for all the NFL teams. It's a very competitive league. Every team is trying to do the best they can to win every week. I believe in fair play, and I always believe in it for as long as I'm playing.
What do you get a feeling that did Coach know at all, Tom? Did Coach know about this process at all? And after he spoke earlier, everybody kind of said that he kind of threw you in front of the bus. Did you feel like he kind of just put you in front of this?
No, I think everyone's obviously trying to figure out what happened. I think that's the main thing over the last couple days. It's trying to figure out what happened. Like I said, I was as surprised as anybody when I heard Monday morning what was happening. I think over the last few days, people have been trying to figure out, as the NFL is trying to figure out, what part of the process, and from when I saw the ball, which was 5 hours before halftime, what exactly happened.
Tom, do all NFL quarterbacks doctor the balls? Do you feel you've done anything differently than anybody else in the league?
I'm not sure. I can only speak for myself. I think that there's a process that everybody goes through breaking in footballs, and it's probably a lot like a baseball mitt when you're a kid. I try to explain that to my friends a lot. When you use and that's your equipment, and that's a football is something that I handle on every play. I want to be very familiar with the equipment that I'm using, just like my cleats, just like my helmet, just like my my pads. You go through that process of breaking the balls in and getting comfortable with them. Of course, I choose the balls that I want to use for the game, and then that's what I expect to go out on the playing field with.
Tom, how important is it for you to get this out of the way and take this head on so that your teammates and the rest of the team can get focused on the Super Bowl?
Well, that's where the importance is. As far as I'm concerned, I know this is a very important thing, and that's why I'm here addressing it. I know my teammates. We've accomplished something really special getting to this point. I don't like the fact that this has taken away from some of the accomplishment of what we've achieved as a team. And I think hopefully our best is still to come. So we're going to work as hard as we can over the next 10 days to put ourselves in a great position to be prepared for the game.
Tommy, would you know the difference, Tom, from a quote-unquote underplayed ball to an overinflated ball, and the balls that you used in the first half? Did you notice a difference in the balls that were actually there for the second half, and would it make a difference?
I didn't. From the first half to the second half, I didn't think twice about it. I don't have to put one thought into the football at that point. you know, once I approve the ball, like I said, that's the ball that I expect out there on the field. So it wasn't even a thought, inkling of a concern of mine that, you know, they were any different. I just assumed that they were exactly the same. First half, second half.
Tom, what do you say to the skeptics who say, look, the Patriots have had violations before. How can we possibly believe what Brady and the coach are saying now?
Well, everybody has, you know, an opinion. I think everybody has, you know, the right to believe whatever they want. I don't ever cast judgment on someone's belief system, and I don't, you know, if that's what they feel like they want to do, then, you know, I don't have a problem with it. I think part of being in this position and putting yourself under a spot like this and being open for criticism, I think that's very much a part of being a professional athlete. So, you know, we can only express to you what our side is and how we approach it, and then everyone is going to make their own.
As a follow-up, are you comfortable within yourself that nobody on Sunday on the Patriots side did anything wrong?
I have no knowledge of anything. I have no knowledge of any wrongdoing of any.
Nobody did anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable saying that. I'm very comfortable saying that nobody did it. As far as I know, I don't know everything. I also understand that I, you know, was in the locker room preparing for a game for 5 hours. I don't know what happened over the course of the process with the footballs. I was preparing for my own job of doing what I needed to do.
Tom, you said, Tom, 3 or 4 years ago, Tom, you said that you liked the ball deflated. You were quoted saying you like throwing a deflated ball. You actually joked about Gronk spiking it because it oozes out a little bit of air. You like a softer ball. So explain that comment in context of what you're dealing with this week.
Yeah, I know. I remember, you know, I obviously read that I said that. You know, I like them at the way that I like them, which is at 12.5. I mean, to me, that's a perfect grip for the football. So, I mean, I think that particular term, you know, deflated or inflated, whatever norm you're using, you could probably use. I would never do anything outside of the rules of play. I would never, you know, have someone do something that I thought was outside of the
So you've
rules.
never knowingly played with a football that was under 12.5 pounds of pressure?
No.
Tom, should you have tried to find out why the ball in the last 3 days, why the ball was so underinflated? I mean, obviously it's important to you and the reputation of the Patriots, but have you tried to find out, even though you don't know that? Or should you have tried to find out why the balls were underinflated?
Well, and that's a great question. I think there's a lot of people that have more information than me. You know, I only know what I've kind of gone through and the process that I've, you know, taken as part of the game and the post game, as well as trying to prepare for the Super Bowl. So, you know, yeah, I have questions too, but, you know, I mean, there's nobody that I know that can answer the questions that I have. So I just have tried my best to focus on what I need to do is to be prepared for
Tom, if you know
Seattle.
if you know the look and feel of the football that you like, do you think there could have been other games where you played with an underinflated football, since that football you played with is maybe something you prefer?
I don't know. I don't, like I said, once I'm out on the field, I'm playing, you know, I had no thought of the football at that point. I'm thinking about the defense. I'm thinking about the execution of the play and what I need to do. I'm not thinking about, you know, how the football feels. I grip the football.
You're saying, hey, have I played with an underinflated ball before?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's on.
This was the first that I've heard of it. Obviously, on Monday morning was the first that I heard of it.
That someone is held accountable. If it's found that someone did improperly tamper with the ball in some way, it's important for you, the legacy of this team, that someone's held accountable.
Well, that's for, you know, I'm not the one that imposes, you know, those type of, you know, accountability. It's, you know, discipline and all that. That's, you know, not really my job. So, you know, obviously I'd like to know what happened, as you all would too. In the meantime, I'm going to try to get ready to do the best I can to play, you know, against the Seahawks, because I can't do anything of what's happened in the past. You know, I have to just go forward with the most awareness as I can going forward and trying to be the best that I can be for our team.
Everybody's entitled to
Everybody's entitled to their opinions and beliefs, right? But how does it make you feel that they're calling your team cheaters on the week 2 weeks before the Super Bowl?
You know, I think a big part of playing here is, you know, trying to ignore the outside forces and influences and people that are maybe fans of your team or not fans of your team, or fans of yourself or not fans of yourself. And like I said, everybody's entitled to an opinion. You know, those opinions rest with those people. You know, I think you can just go out and try to be the best person you can be, deal with people with respect, with honesty, with integrity, you know, have a high moral standard. You know, and I've always really tried to exemplify that as an athlete, and I'll continue to try to do that.
Does this motivate you guys?
I mean, we got a lot of motivation. I would say we got a lot of motivation as a team. But, you know, I think our team's overcome a lot of adversity this year, and I think sometimes in life the biggest challenges end up being the best things that happen in your life. And we've overcome a lot of those this year as a team. So, you know, we can rally around one another and support one another. You can be the best teammate that you can possibly be, and you know, you can go out and support each other and try to go win a very important game.
Tom, did you address your teammates? Did you address your teammates today? And if so, what did you say?
Those are, you know, very personal things, you know, with my teammates. So that's, yeah, it was very personal comments.
Tom, when you pick out the balls, is that before they went to the referee?
Yeah, they always are. It's always the same process. I get here, you know, the playoffs I got here pretty early before the games, and then I go in there and I choose, you know, however many balls are necessary for the game. Sometimes it's 12, 16, 18, 24. This last particular game was 24. And when I felt them, they were perfect. I mean, I wouldn't want anyone touching those. I would zip those things up and lock them away until I got out on the field and had the opportunity to play with them, and that's what I thought I was doing.
Tom, you find it curious then that those balls were what they were when they go to the officials by halftime to deflate it by 2 points?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was very surprising to me.
Tom, one of your teammates this morning said that this was a media thing. It gives us something to talk about. Is that the feeling in the room? Because he didn't give it as much seriousness as I thought he would have. Is there a feeling behind closed doors that we're blowing this out of proportion? Or is it a serious thing that you're really concerned about?
Absolutely. No, it's very serious. This is a very serious, you know, topic. You know, obviously the integrity of the sport is very important. You know, I also think there's another focus that we have also as a team, that guys are really focused on our opponent and the things that we have to do to try to be successful. So, you know, everyone's trying to figure out what happened. But at the same time, you've got to prepare for, you know, the Seahawks also.
You sort of laughed this off on Monday, though. You laughed this off on the radio, and suddenly today you're a lot more somber about this. What happened between Monday and today?
Well, that was, you know, look, that was real early in the morning. I got home, you know, at 1 o'clock and woke up to do the radio interview, and I was very shocked to hear it. So I almost laughed it off, thinking it wasn't, you know, that was more sour grapes than anything. And then it ended up, you know, it ends up being a very serious thing when you know, when you start learning the things that were being said.
But the start of the second half was delayed. The balls were swapped out. Coach says he knew nothing about it, which, you know, you have to take him at his word. But the game was delayed. How did you guys on that sideline not know what was going on the field with respect to the balls, and that there was obviously an issue with the balls?
I don't think anybody knew there was an issue with the balls. I think they said the balls are not ready for play, and then I turned around in the huddle, and the ball was ready for play. So I didn't think anything of it.
Nobody said anything to you, Tom, on the sideline. I mean, it was a good minute delay between the start of your series, when you came on the field, got ready, got lined up, and then before you had your first snap. There's a good minute delay there. Nobody said anything?
I wasn't paying attention to what was happening at that time. I don't remember, you know, I mean, everything was happening obviously so fast in the middle of the game. I was thinking about the series to go out there and, you know, the execution of the game.
So
Tom, you say that you like...
The officials
No.
did not say a word.
You don't feel like you had an
Fans
unfair
right now
advantage with
simply-
the Colts? You don't feel like you had an unfair advantage of the Colts?
I felt like we won the game fair and square, so we ended up, you know, playing a great opponent, and I thought our team went out and played a great game offensively, defensively, special teams. It was a great accomplishment to reach the AFC Championship, to win the AFC Championship, and then to have the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. So that was a great feeling after the game. You know, obviously the next few days and hearing of the football issue has taken away from a little bit of that, but hopefully we'll rally around one another to bring it back to the task at hand, which is to try to go out and be the best we can be.
Tom, you say that you love
Fans right now are disappointed just in the situation right here. For those, is this a moment where you should just pause and say, whether it was by design, as you suggested it wasn't, or just accidental, was this a moment to just say, I'm sorry, to the fans of the NFL and to the fans of Tom Brady?
Well, I think it's disappointing that a situation like this, happens. It's obviously I'd love to be up here talking about in a very joyful mood. These are the 2 best weeks of the year if you happen to be one of the 2 teams still playing. So it's a great, it should be a great 2 weeks. I'm obviously very disappointed that we have to be having a press conference like this. I wish I could give you more answers or the answers that you guys were looking for, but I don't have some of those answers.
The fans are watching, so if they're looking in that camera,
I'm not sure what would you like me to say. I'm not quite sure.
You say whatever you like. You're the guy.
Does the league have responsibility to button this up so that everybody can move on?
I think they'll do however they see fit. I think that's up to their responsibility to do whatever they want to do. That's kind of usually what happens anyway. So, like I said, I know they're doing their investigation, and that's, I'm sure, I don't know what will happen after that.
If you guys be left to twist in the wind a little bit out here between you and Bill?
No, I mean, I think we're preparing for the Super Bowl. I think this is obviously something we're having to address, but at the same time, I think we're focused on trying to go out and beat the Seahawks.
You say your perfect ball is 12 and a half.
Sorry?
Did the investigators in the league talk to you as part of the investigation?
Not yet.
So your perfect ball is 12 and a half.
Seriousness of the issue. You said earlier that first it seemed lighter and then you became convinced that it was more serious. What was it that convinced you of the seriousness?
Well, I just wasn't obviously aware Monday morning of everything that had happened. So just as I learned more, you understand that there's more than what I initially.
What's so serious about it to you? I mean, what's the biggest problem with the community?
Just the integrity of the game. I think that's a very important issue to always, be mindful of as an athlete, and fair play. And I think we set a great example for the younger athletes, the younger kids, the college kids, the high school kids. We want to be the ones to set the great example.
Tom, Bill said that a future.
Are you frustrated by this process? Are you surprised by the process of what the story has become, and what, I guess, do you hope the end result is going forward from what essentially was brought up?
I'm not sure if I have, a hope. I haven't, put much thought into that. It's been just a short period of time. I'd really love to go out there and, play a great game. Obviously the NFL would love to figure out what happened in this situation. And I try to keep everything in perspective. So I'm happy that we have an opportunity to play in the next game. And, obviously I'm disappointed by, the footballs of last game. But I can't do anything about what happened. I can only try to, I can really only do something going forward.
They haven't talked to you yet? The league has not spoken to you, contacted you, and got your side of the story on this yet?
No, but, they may. I think that's their, I think that's obviously their choice.
Tom, do you find that odd, though? If they wanted, like Tom said, to put this behind us and get ready for the Super Bowl, they would have contacted you? Right?
Sure. Yeah, they might. They might.
Tom, you're Tom.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not.
No, I mean, it's odd that they haven't at this point. That you're the quarterback and you're the center of the story right now, and the league's officials investigating, having talked to you, indicates to a lot of people that they're letting this drag on, twist in the wind.
I'm not sure.
Have you been told whether they will talk to you?
I'm not sure.
Tom, there are people who are going to hear this and they're going to say, if you're so familiar with the equipment, how could you not know that the balls were underinflated? What would you say to them?
Well, I addressed that a little bit earlier in that, like I said, I don't put any thought into the footballs after I choose them. When you're out there playing, in front of 70,000 people like a home crowd, you don't think about it. You're just reacting to the game. certainly think about the football. I just assume that it's the same one that I approved, in the pregame.
Your perfect football, Tom.
Balls you would use in practice?
We break them in practice, certainly sometimes. Yeah, we definitely do that. It's different from game to game. I mean, some days one ball may feel good, the next day it may not. It depends on maybe how, I don't know, the humidity in the air or how old the ball was, or, I think there's a lot of variables with, obviously, Mother Nature and with the balls. So, whatever feels good that day, those are the ones that I would typically choose.
So those are the same ones that maybe Bill squirts a little water on when you're not looking at it in practice?
Yeah, he does that a lot, but it could be, yeah, it definitely could be.
Tom, what did you say that you have better numbers?
Look at these balls before each game and you pick the which
Yep.
the ones you pick, those were the balls, and as you said earlier, you didn't want them to be touched. And you didn't notice that 15% of air was out of the ball when you started using it? It's a little hard to believe. No point, it didn't strike you during that first effort.
Yeah, Ron, I didn't feel any different, obviously, than I would just assume that it was the same thing. It's like I said, once I get the ball, I'm, dropping back and reading the coverage and throwing the ball, and I'm not,
professional athletes can tell you if the basketball players, if the rim is 6 inches off, they can tell you they're taking 2 shots. Baseball players pick up a bat and tell you it's less than an ounce different than what it's supposed to be. Trying to ask us, you who makes your living in football, 15% of the ball is deflated, and I didn't even notice.
I wouldn't know on a particular play. I mean, it was a very wet, cold, windy night. Like I said, it's.
But Jaquel Jackson could notice.
Have you asked the staff?
I don't know. I don't do that, Ron. I get the snap, I drop back, I throw the ball. I grip it, and I try to throw the ball. That's the extent of the, me touching the football. So I don't sit there and, try to squeeze it and determine that. If that's what the Colts want to do, then that's what they want to do. I don't, that was what their decision was. But I certainly didn't, certainly I didn't, no, I did not recognize that. I did not feel a difference between the first half and the second half when supposedly they were inflated to the, original, even more inflated. I didn't notice any difference. I didn't obviously think there was anything different between halves.
When you initially tested the balls and they met your approval, do you think you would have noticed if the balls were underinflated at that time?
Yeah, but I'm not, I don't know, I guess it's a challenging thing. I'm not squeezing the balls. I'm not, I don't, that's not part of my process. I grab it, I feel the lace, I feel the leather, I feel the tack on the ball. That's really what you go for. It's not like I'd ever squeezed the football. I just grip the football. I think there's maybe a little bit of a difference in, how I do that.
You did say that 12 and a half.
Tom, is that along with the fact that you had better numbers after that happened, when the whole exchange was made? You went 9 for 9 in the rest of that third quarter after the supposedly underinflated balls were taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, I didn't think any differently in the second half as I did in the first half. I mean, I know, we had a great second half. It was due to great execution by a lot of, great football players. So, like I said, I know that's, obviously the, what they said. They put, they inflated them, and I didn't notice a difference. I wish I could tell you something different. I just didn't notice any difference.
You did say that your perfect football was 12 and a half pounds per square inch, though, and Bill said that possibly a future fix could be to inflate them a little bit more so that if they deflate during the course of the game, it won't go under that bottom level. Will that take any adjustment for you if 12 and a half is what you like?
I don't think that would make much of a difference. If, like I said, I didn't feel any difference between what was 13-pound football or 11-pound football the other night. So it's, it's pretty irrelevant to me.
Tom, you were instrumental in helping the league change the rule that lets teams bring their own balls to games on offense.
Yeah.
Will you now help lobby the league to change the rules surrounding this situation?
What situation? What process would that be? Of us breaking in our own balls?
And making sure the balls are the proper weight throughout the game.
Yeah, if they want to do that, I have no problem with that. I certainly wouldn't want them to take away us breaking the balls in. I think that's a great thing for all the quarterbacks to have the balls in play that they want to use. Everybody has a preference. Some guys like them round, and some guys like them thin. Some guys like them tacky. Some guys like them brand new. Some guys like old balls. I mean, they're all different, and it's leather, and it's all, every batch comes. They're different. So you got to feel them, and you try to go out and you try to use the ones that you like the best, the ones that you use in practice. You want to go out there and try to have the most possible consistency you can to go in the game with.
Well, I'm concerned that some of the balls will be underweight, so will you then go to the league and say, hey, let's change these rules. Let's make sure I'm never touching a ball that I believe is the proper weight that might not be.
Absolutely. If they want to check that, I would love for them to be a 12.5. Like I said, I think that's the perfect fit for me. I know there's other quarterbacks, like I said, that may prefer more than that. But, that's what works for me. It's all a very individual thing.
Are you saying the refs might have missed this?
Am I saying that?
Is it possible the refs missed this and they didn't catch it?
I don't have any, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't, I don't know what happened. I mean, I have no explanation for it. I don't know what happened between the time that I touched it and, really till Monday morning, I have no idea what happened with the balls. So
who handles the balls after the ref hands them back over to team custody?
I have no idea. That's not part of my process.
Ball boy, an equipment manager?
I have no idea. I'm, preparing for the game. I would never be a part of that.
Who handles the practice? You say, I might like this ball for the game. Where does that ball go?
The quarterbacks always, will throw the balls, and, if we like a ball, then we throw it aside.
So, Tom, just to confirm, the NFL hasn't questioned you. Have they contacted your reps, agent, anything?
As of this morning, I'm not sure. I'd say that. I'm not sure. They may or may not have. I'm supposed to, talk to my agent after, and that may be one of the things that he wants to talk about. No.
Tom, have you heard from any former teammates, current NFL players? I mean, you don't have to say who they are, obviously, but have you gotten any opinions, pro or con, about what's going on with this late fee and the Patriots?
Well, I've had a lot of, great support from, a lot of people, and I think that in a situation like this, it's really, it's a very, like I said, sometimes some of the toughest things you deal with end up being the best things because you realize the people that you can rely on that love you and support you through, something like this. So it's a, I appreciate all their support. I tell them I'm okay, it's a, things are going to be fine. This isn't ISIS. This isn't, no one's dying, but we'll get through this, and hopefully we can really start preparing for Seattle, and get our mind focused there because they're going to take all my mental energy for the next 10 days.
Things just got blown out of proportion for no reason. Things got blown out of proportion for absolutely no reason.
I think the integrity of the game is very important. Yeah, integrity of the game is very important.
Tom, have you personally sought out anyone from the equipment staff just to ask them if they did anything with the football?
Yeah, and they haven't, and I believe them, and they also know that how I like the balls, and I tell them how great they are before the game, and how perfect job, great job. So they know how I like it, and that's exactly the way they are.
Tom, one last thing. Coach Belichick had it earlier. One of the things that he said was, I don't know what happened. You just said, I don't know what happened. Yet, most of football players, you two guys are the two most prepared guys for any situation. Anything to situation. If you weren't part of this team, you were sitting here, back and forth, would you be saying, oh yeah, those guys they know everything else?
Well, it's whosever opinion, everybody can have an opinion, Ron, and I think that, whatever opinion people have, I mean, that's okay by me. I think I put myself in this position where I can stand up here and deal with that. I know what I go through on a daily basis. I know the process that I take. I also know what's in my control and what's out of my control. So I think a lot of my whole life, it's been about focusing on the things that are in my control and trying to do the best with that opportunity and the best I can with it. If I don't know something, I don't know something. I don't know what to say other than that. I just know the process that I go through, and I'm very comfortable with it. And hopefully we can, go forward and play a great game in a week from Sunday.
Tom, when you left the field on Sunday or drove home Sunday night, is this the last thing you'd ever think you'd be talking about from Thursday before you guys watched Arizona?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I had no. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I think they said that's it about 10 minutes ago. So, thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Tom Brady answering all the questions asked. You have to give him that. I will offer this to you. Watching the fire hose, otherwise known as Twitter, from at #Inflategate, Darren Sands tweeted this, saying, "I can say unequivocally as a fan of the team, I've never seen Brady like this, measured, tentative, and uncomfortable." And I think that would be a fairly accurate interpretation of his performance there. But it is a remarkable thing, and arguably not a bigger story right now in this country. It was interesting to see all the attention that one news conference engendered.